Welcome back to Askewed Reviews. And for this week, I'm doing a theme, and that theme is This Can't Be Real, but It Is. And this is also a viewer request for the 1981 film Heartbeeps. Here is your trivia question for today. In the future setting of this film, how has beer evolved? The answer will be at the end of this episode. In the film Heartbeeps, we are in a future where robots exist everywhere and they are given specific tasks. Our story starts off at a robot repair factory. We meet one of our main characters, Valcom, who is a communications robot that has been brought here due to a damaged limb. He quickly realizes that he's not the only communications robot that's at the factory. There is also Aquacom. Now, over the next couple of days, while they're waiting to be repaired, Val and Aqua begin having communications with each other and discussing how they would like to be able to go and explore the world outside. A joke telling robot named Catskill overhears this and wants to join them. So our three robots escape from the factory and begin to explore the world. And as they're out there, they begin learning about so many different things, including what love is. Val and Aqua even decide to use some spare parts to create a child, essentially, that they've named Phil. Now, unfortunately, it's not all happiness for our robots, as GM Robotics is now out to find all of them and bring them back to the factory. Also, to make matters worse, a rogue crime buster bot has decided it is their job to either bring back or destroy these missing robots. So, will this robotic family be able to find a home, at least before they run out of power? This movie was directed by Alan Arkush. The character of Val is played by Andy Kaufman. Kaufman, by the way, had primarily only done television up to this point, but he really wanted to make a film called The Tony Clifton Story that would actually be about the life and times of Tony Clifton. So the studio decided to give him an opportunity by letting him star in this film first. Unfortunately, the movie ended up being a flop and only made back about a fifth of its budget. The studio had high hopes for this film, as around this time the popularity of C3PO and R2D2 was crazy, especially with kids. So, because the movie flopped, they ended up scrapping the Tony Clifton story. Here's a random piece of trivia for you. Kaufman states that Val's voice was a combination of him attempting to do Bugs Bunny mixed with Elmer Fudd. The character of Aqua is played by Bernadette Peters, but the role was originally offered to Sigourney Weaver. She ended up turning it down as her agent told her to do so. Probably one of the most unfortunate things of this movie being a flop is there were actually some big names connected to it. John Williams was actually the composer for this film. He was brought on due to the fact that one of the producers of this film also worked on the movie Close Encounters of the Third Kind. The makeup and effects artist was Stan Winston. He was hired on due to the fact that he did the makeup for the Tin Man in The Wiz. In case you were curious, Val had 12 separate facial prosthetics and Aqua had 6. Of the humans that appear in the cast, there are definitely some familiar faces, but probably the most recognizable is Randy Quaid. The voice for the robot Catskill was Jack Carter. The voice for Crime Buster was Ron Gans. And speaking of the Crime Buster, the way that they made it is they just retrofitted a death probe from the television series The $6 Million Man. Here's one I was not expecting, but the voice, or at least the noises that came from Phil, were made by Jerry Garcia. Yep, that Jerry Garcia. You may not know this, but there's an homage to the character of Phil in the cartoon series Adventure Time. That would be the created character, Nepter. This movie was filmed in California and Colorado. So when it comes to the film Heartbeeps, this one was actually surprisingly better than I thought it was going to be. It actually has a fun, cute little story that has a lot of heart to it. I also thoroughly enjoyed the makeup, costumes, and music for this film. I really did enjoy this one, and I think I'm going to give this a 3 out of 5. Now, if you enjoyed this movie, other films I recommend checking out are Short Circuit, Bicentennial Man, Robots, and Sleeper. Now it's time for the answer to the trivia question from the beginning of this episode. In the future setting of this film, how has beer evolved? So I definitely don't consider this an advancement, but beer now apparently comes in pouches, just like a Capri Sun. Although these do not come with straws, you just tear them open and drink out of the pouch. I hope you enjoyed this episode of Askewed Reviews. If there's a movie you'd like to see get a review, just mention it in the comments, and especially if it fits in the category of this can't be real, but it is, because I've had fun with this, and I'm looking to do this theme again at another point.